Now, remember, he pled not guilty by reason of insanity. John Sharp, our psychiatrist, Harvard MD, joining us once again out of Boston. So my question is, how can you have a major depressive disorder, like this mental health expert said, and still be sane?
Well, great question. I mean, by his behavior, he certainly looks to all of us morally insane. But at the same time, he can actually have a clinical depression, a major psychiatric illness, and still know right from wrong and still know the consequences of his action and that he was the one responsible for killing his own children.
Okay, but Doc, listen to his parents, okay? Dad says that Aaron was a difficult child. He was rebellious. He was belligerent. Mom says her son suffered from mental illness his entire childhood. Depression ran in on her side of the family. All right, they say that Aaron was diagnosed with ADD in 3rd grade. He was bullied in the 4th grade. He was arrested for shoplifting, stole a gun, brought that to school, and then he was finally expelled from school for gang-related reasons. I mean, that is quite a list.
It's really sad. It's really disturbing. It's really disturbing to me that he wasn't able to get effective treatment earlier. You know, colicky as a kid, he can't control his own feelings. He gets picked on. He gets angry. He gets depressed. I can see how his world could have become a grim reality. But I'm telling you, Kira, this is treatable. He needed some good old-fashioned psychotherapy following an assessment. Maybe he needed meds, and that could have made a critical difference.
Well, you know, I mean, Schaffhausen's dad says that things did get better for him, apparently. I mean, look, we know he got married. We know he had children. But he says there was always an undercurrent of sadness in his son that overflowed then once he got divorced. So, you know, we're wondering, Doctor, I mean, how does this play? How does this play to his insanity defense?
Oh, I don't think it does. I mean, I think he was a loner at heart. I think he felt, in a sense, hopeless, like nothing was really going to change. I mean, this is just speculation, and I think that ultimately he acted out in this grave, terrible way. But it's not clinically insanity. It's depression, hopelessness, irritability, and this propensity to act violently and to act out on his feelings rather than deal with them productively.
And many people walk around with depression. There are plenty of people that have anxiety disorders, mental illness, depression, psychosis, all of those things.
20% of Americans.
Yeah, and they don't kill. They don't resort to this type of violence. So it's not enough to say, you know, that he was, I agree with them that he probably wasn't insane. He probably did suffer from depression, didn't really know how to deal with what was going on with him in a thoughtful, in a cohesive sort of way, and chose violence, chose killing his children.
With that kind of laundry list as a kid, though, what do we know? Do we know the facts on what the parents did?
That's
and
what
kind of help did they try to get him?
That's exactly what we're going to talk about. We've sort of been talking about the Jodi Arias trial, the Aaron Schaffhausen trial, and in both cases, you know, the parents were concerned about their kids' mental health. So that's what we're going to ask next. We're going to keep the doc around. As parents, how do we know when we should take action or just back off? That's the conversation we're going to have as soon as we return. Challenge. Dr. Sharp, you know, what do you say to our parents that are watching saying, oh my God, that's my kid, or those are similar things that my kid is dealing with?
I say, let me help you respond to that challenge. It is so hard to know what to do. But here's one thing. Don't overlook it. Don't think you've got to come up with the answer all by yourself. Talk to somebody who can help you be mindful and be reasonable and model the correct kind of response, which ultimately is going to include getting some professional help.
What's the difference between being shy and being a loner? What if you have a shy child?
That's a good question, Doctor. Do you know what the difference is between being shy and being a loner?
Yeah, there's a big overlap. The key thing is whether someone is anxious in a social situation. So someone who's shy is anxious in a social situation. Treat the anxiety, they can come out of their shell. Someone who's a loner would rather just be alone. It's a more difficult to treat, more dangerous predicament when you're dealing with a loner.
Okay, here's the thing. Aaron Schaffhausen's dad said that he decided not to press his son, hoping that things would just one day be normal. So it sounds like he kind of risked the relationship in the short term, you know, for the long term. I mean, how do we know this is the time when we can't throw this under the rug any longer?
Don't fall prey to wishful thinking. Don't just hope that it's going to be better because you don't know what to do about it. You know, one trick that I find that's useful is to define the extremes. What would it be like in this situation, you can ask yourself, if I did nothing? And what would it be like if I, overreacted? So you really don't want to underreact or overreact. Try to define what those would be and then find a middle path and get some input. Talk to somebody about it and make sure that what you're thinking and feeling seems sensible to someone who you feel is a reasonable human being.
Doc, stay with us. We're not sure what's going on inside a 10-year-old boy's head, but we do know one thing. A desire to guard your buddy with a gun while he stabs a classmate is not normal behavior. We're going to continue this conversation about our kids, mental health, and warning signs right after the break. So this kid could be in jail till he's 21, Christy. He's 10 now. So what did you find out about the whole rehabilitation process? And can you rehabilitate him because he's young?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. According to a study from 2005, the relapse rate is 77% for boys, 72% for girls there in Washington where this is. But, you know, I was looking at a lot of different stuff, and there's a representative from the DA's office in California, Santa Clara County to be exact, and he said he has seen kids turn their lives around, that 80% of the kids that were in court at one point do not come back and are not in that courtroom again. And he said the reason is that the juvenile system is an art, it's not a science. You got to throw a bunch of stuff at these kids, a bunch of remedies, and see which one sticks, because every kid is different.
Pauline Gaines, you're on the phone with us. You're one of our viewers. You tweeted us. I want to thank you. Your son, you noticed, was having problems at the age of 6, huge anger issues. You actually sent him away to a private institution because you were nervous about what was happening with your son. Why did you do that, and did it work?
I did it because we had tried every kind of therapy, outpatient therapy, in-home behavioral care, medication, and he was just getting worse and worse. When he got kicked out of school and his behavior problems worsened, we just couldn't keep him in the home. So we sent him to wilderness camp and then to a residential treatment facility.
So, Dr. Sharp, you know, Pauline could afford to send her kid away. You know, some states, as we hear through Christy's research, kids are okay in juvie. They get help, they rehabilitate. Other situations, they go back and commit a crime again. How do you know what's best for your kid?
Well, you keep trying is one thing. I think it's a great, great example that exposing your kid to the consequences of their actions and trying to think in a rehabilitative way. You know, juvie can actually be that. If you don't have any resources at all, you take your kid to the hospital, to your local hospital. You tell the emergency doctor or the psychiatrist there that how much is at stake. Someone could die. He's got to be hospitalized. You talk to the police. You talk to the court system, and you be as strong an advocate as you can. There are programs that are publicly funded. They're just very hard to access.
Pauline, how's your son doing now?
He is doing great. The treatment he got completely turned his life around. It turned our family around, and he's in a regular school right now.
Amen. Pauline, thanks so much for writing in.
So great to hear.
Yeah, isn't that?
Great to
it's
hear.
like he gives you, it's like, oh, thank you. And a lot of other parents probably love hearing that, too. Now, remember, there's an 11-year-old boy accused in this case, too. He's in court April 15th. We're going to stay on top of this story, let you know if he pleads out or goes to trial. And, of course, we'll continue to talk about mental illness and if you're struggling with it within your family. We're also